Welcome, everyone. I am Angela Timberlake. I am the Vice President of Elevate Women with Jax USA, a division of the Jacksonville Chamber. And Elevate Women's vision is to make Northeast Florida a place where women can succeed both personally and professionally. As a community, we must ensure women have the same opportunities to advance in their careers to the highest level of leadership, whether that's in executive roles, on corporate boards, in political office, or even in business ownership. When we do this, Northeast Florida becomes a destination where top talent can thrive, which means our business community, our economics, and our community all thrive, and that's a winning strategy. However, the reality is when women face many barriers to achieve the highest level of leadership. So Elevate Women's mission is to minimize and possibly eliminate those barriers to level the playing field. One way to do that is learn from other successful women by hearing their story and feeling the power of possibility. Now more than ever, we need a little bit more in that motivation tank. And to see someone who maybe looks like them, sounds like them, maybe has a similar background as them, and they're breaking through those barriers, then it's possible, and they can too. So it's very powerful and it's contagious. We hear all the time about the struggles, the challenges, and that it's complicated. So our goal is to flip that mindset from it's complicated to it's possible. So this is our Leaders Elevating Leaders series, and I'm honored to be joined by this well-known, well-respected leader in our local business and our community, Durand Stuebben. Terry is the Vice President of the North Florida market for Foresight Construction Group. For the past several years, 20 years, she has a very flourishing career in our community. Her focus has been on the architectural and building industry throughout the Southeast. Prior to joining Foresight, she was appointed the first female principal at a prominent local law firm, becoming the only woman among top 10 commercial construction companies in the Jacksonville area, and elevated to the vice president and appointed to the executive team. Now, if that's not enough, she's a former president on several economic development boards here locally, a member of Downtown Vision's board of directors. She was appointed by the mayor to serve as a commissioner on the Housing and Community Development Council, and was previously recognized as a woman of influence. So there's no doubt she is someone that you need to know, and I'm honored to bring her here to you today. Terry, welcome.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you for that very kind introduction.
Now, when we first met, I was so impressed by what you've accomplished. And you're always so modest about your success and also the impact that you have on the growth of our community. So for those of you that don't know Terry, I'm going to give her an opportunity to tell us a little bit more. Tell us a little bit more about you, yourself, and your slightly unconventional journey to leadership.
Okay, so my journey has been one that I would say has been by word of mouth, a recommendation of others that know me. So I would say that my success and my growth was also contributed by several others that really helped me go on this very diverse path. How I even arrived in the arena of the architectural and construction industry more than 20 years ago was very unconventional. Actually, a neighbor was approached asking for someone if they knew somebody who was a good people person, and gave a description, and the neighbor said, "Oh, I know somebody that would be perfect for you." And when I was approached with the opportunity, again, over 20 years ago, I thought to myself, I know nothing about this industry. You know, all I know is that Mike Brady was an architect and that people look at plans to build something. That was the level of my knowledge. But I was so intrigued. I love how there's always something new and unusual. So it sparked me, and it sparked my desire to continue to learn and grow in the industry. And through it all, I also juggled home, children, sports, practices, and it was a lot of fun.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. So what would you say, you know, like we talked about, not everyone thinks about this industry, right? So what would you say are some of the critical experiences and the skills that really helped you succeed?
Oh, that's a good question. Very true that when you think about, well, you're more accustomed to having women in the interior design, and you see them more often in the architectural field. If you think about it, it's more creative, more abstract. You are more comfortable in thinking outside of the norm and throwing out different ideas. In the world of construction, because it is a high risk industry, you have to follow a very regimen platform. There's processes, and it's different, but they're the same. And I think that when somebody hears construction, the immediate thought, especially for a female, is, you know, out there playing in the dirt and wearing a hard hat. So, you know, an example, you know, I have volunteered and contributed to the Pace Center for Girls on numerous occasions, and they hold a career expo. And, you know, when they would come to the table and I would be the individual there representing the construction industry, the girls would just be so perplexed. They're like, well, what do you do? Did you have to start out, you know, in the construction, and, you know, were you out there? And I said, no. And I said, but are you interested? And there actually were a few young ladies that would say how they love driving by on their way to school. They might see particular project sites and watching them come out of the ground or watching things be renovated. It intrigued them. And, you know, so my advice to those young ladies regarding construction, or any female, it's, if you're intrigued by the industry, it's just like any others. There's so many other diverse professions within that industry vertical. I would explain to the girls, you know, every business needs accounting, every business needs sales, you know, every business needs some form of operations or project management. So, yeah, that's, you know, people don't think it's your average, your typical path. But I love the construction industry. Every single day it's something new. Every project is different.
I love it. That's exciting. So what would you say, you know, we're talking about people following your footsteps. So what would you say, if you're in that industry as a female, what are some of the behaviors and the characteristics? Because you might think that you have to be overly aggressive or overly strong. So what would you say, you know, to be thinking about if somebody goes down this path? What are the qualities that you recommend?
Oh, I would say the qualities for somebody in this industry, way, Angela, that's an interesting one, because you're absolutely right. It being a very male dominated field, if you're really wanting to show your strengths and your abilities, it can be thought of as being aggressive. And however, my advice to other women would be, don't hold yourself back. You have to show your strength, and you have to have your voice. By not being your authentic self is going to be your biggest barrier. And don't try so hard to prove your point or be accepted and try to get others to see your contributions and work that much harder, because quite frankly, I can talk from experience, because you think that, oh, because I'm the female, I have to, you know, make that point or prove that point even harder. Just be your true self.
Those are great words. We always feel like we have to do more, right? Like we have to do just that little bit more to prove our point. And sometimes we don't, right? Sometimes we just need to stop and let it absorb, but we just continue. So that's great advice. Thank you. So you've done so many different things and you're involved in so many different areas. Would you do anything different? Looking back now, would you have done anything different?
Would I have done anything different? I definitely pause on that, and to be very honest with myself, I love the path that I've had. However, I will say there were times in my career where I was uncomfortable or insecure in making a change. When I take, for instance, if opportunities were presented to me, and the opportunities would be, it's a whole new could be a different company, a different location, a different state. You never want to live with what ifs, but sometimes I wonder, what would that have been like? Where would I be now? I don't regret any of my decisions. I just wish back then, several years ago, I was a bit more confident and said, okay, I'm gonna give this a try. So that would primarily be the only thing I would do differently. Yeah, and I mean, the choices I've made with my colleagues and with the companies and juggling with my children, there's absolutely no regrets, but might have liked to try and take a few chances back then.
Yeah, I understand that all too well. Now, what would you say, because you talk about, juggling all of those.
Mm-hmm.
What has been your greatest reward as, being a leader?
Well, being a leader, my greatest reward is when others thank me for the impact I've made on them, or how I've helped them grow and develop. I had a colleague of mine, he's now with another company, I'm now with another company, and I received a message with him, and he said, I was my best when I was working with you. And it was a way of saying thank you. And to know that you have those type of impacts on individuals. There's a female that I worked very closely with, and I am very proud of knowing that I contributed to her development and her growth, and she's moved on to another path. So that brings me the greatest joy.
Yeah, that's great. It's I asked that question because there's so many women that are a little bit hesitant about raising their hand for those opportunities because of the extra commitment and, having the fear of it taking away from your family. So it's always great to hear what the reward is for all the effort, and those are all very powerful. So I would say, a question I like to ask is, what has surprised you most about being in your role? What have you, maybe seeing things in yourself that you didn't really know that they were there until you started, beginning to expand in your career?
I guess what surprises me the most and continues to surprise me is how others view me, and I receive accolades from others, because I just still feel like I'm working hard and I'm trying hard and I'm trying to be successful. That surprises me very often. When individuals tell me, "Oh, you're much better than you think you are," and I have a hard time with that, and I'm surprised because I should accept that. But the reason why it surprises me is because I feel like I'm not giving myself a hall pass. I got to continue, to march forward and reach goals.
Yeah, I don't see you stopping anytime soon. So now, let's talk about, since you have been so successful, I'm sure there's things that you are hesitant about. So give us one fear that you've been able to at least manage or overcome.
I would say that fear would be, you mentioned it earlier, is raising my hand and speaking up. Speaking up when my idea, my question, suggestion is very different than the majority. That took a very long time. And I will say, any advice I could share with others, yeah, I regretted that, because there were times where either I could have had a much stronger impact, or it would have provided a more substantial voice at the table. That there was always that concern of being accepted. And when you are, the female, you don't necessarily always want to disrupt the boat. And so it's still always a constant struggle. But I think I've gotten definitely more comfortable in how to approach those situations and those conversations.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. So I assume, and this is just me from the outside looking in, I assume you're one of the few women leaders and executives in the construction field. Is that true in this area?
In the Jacksonville area, there are actually a few women-owned construction firms. But when you think of larger construction companies, or it could be regional or those that are national, the number of women at that level is extremely small. And that can be dissected for many reasons. But I remember seeing a report one time that actually there were less female leaders in the construction industry. Of course, this is broad, the industry as a whole, not speaking to Jacksonville, than there were in other typical male-dominated fields, which was, surprising.
Okay. So what would you say? What would your recommendation? What's one thing companies or executives, leaders should be doing now to embrace more women, embrace diversity at the leadership level?
Well, you hear a lot about inclusion and diversity, and a lot of companies, and big or small, feel, the need and the importance to be diverse. And however, it's one thing to know that that's a corporate responsibility, or that you want to be responsible. It's quite another to truly believe it, embrace it, and understand it. Understand what that means to their individual companies. What does that mean to their individual boards? And diversity isn't just putting a selection of different people around the table, for whether it's a female or a minority or anything of that sort. The diversity can be, everybody can be looking the same around the table, but it's allowing and embracing the diversity of thought and potential solutions and ideas. So that's what I would say what companies really need to do. I think there's a lot of sincere desire to do so. I really do. I think it's needing the guidance, or even the coaching of really, what does that mean to your company? What does that look like? Because the data shows it. The data shows it, whether it's regional or it's national. But they really have to understand, maybe educate, and how to really make that authentic for their individual companies or individual boards, so that the benefit can be realized.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, given our current climate, it is becoming, more challenging to work in an office environment and, do a lot of that collaboration. So what are you guys doing? How are you thinking about sort of the family-friendly work environments during these challenging times?
Well, speaking from my team at Foresight, I will say that, no more different than anyone else. There was a little bit of adjustment, but we've all adapted. It's been flexible. And quite honestly, one of the things, the unexpected joy that came out of some of that was more daily connections with the superintendents. Our superintendents out in the field generally are connected to their project managers on a day-to-day basis, or their operations manager, or they come in once a month for a meeting. But at that time, when everybody was home and you're trying to, stay connected, it was a deliberate and intentional approach to speaking to everyone every day that made us all realize, we're comfortable working this way. Right now, as you can see, I'm in my office. We are flexible to accommodate our individual members. The benefit that we have is, construction is considered a essential workforce. We've had to practice quite a bit of precautions even out in the construction field. But it is different. For construction, I think, the offering the diverse home or office has worked just fine for us. I could see where there's a potential challenge in our industry for the design professionals, because there is a lot of synergy. There's a lot of collaboration that those that are creative, really thrive and absorb from their coworkers. So I'm sure that can be a challenge.
Yeah, it's good to hear that you guys are still able to, continue to serve the communities in the challenging times. So thank you for that. Now, given all of this, you talked about, juggling. We haven't really talked about, time for Terry. So tell me, how are you balancing all this? How are you balancing giving so much to your work and the community, and then still having time for you and your family?
That's a tough question, because I will tell you, Angela, for years, my family, especially my husband, would say, you have to find a hobby, and on my downtime or my weekends, it's been a long time. It was very hard for me to learn how to relax and how to decompress.
Yeah, don't you that?
And so the way that I've always managed to juggle it, I consider myself very fortunate. I never felt overwhelmed. And if there's the biggest bit of advice, if I can share with other women, is whatever brings you joy, whatever is the most important thing to you in your life, you have to continue to make that your number one. My greatest joy is my family, is time with my children, time with my husband. I was asked one time, so what is your favorite hobby? What's your favorite thing to do? And it's like being with my husband. So I factor into my work week, into my commitments, my board commitments, how that looks scheduling wise with my family, because I have to be happy there first before I can be effective at work, before I can be effective in leadership roles with boards. So, I would say that would be one area I would give myself an A+.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. It's been very insightful. I want to turn now to a little bit of the fun. I think it's important for people to know a little bit more about the personal side and be able to connect with you. So we're gonna do a little fun questionnaire part. So what job did you enjoy the most?
The most?
Yep, in your entire career.
Well, I have to say my job now. I would say my job, I mean, really, I keep bringing it back. I know we're talking about our professions, but the job I loved the most was being a mother. So I can say with complete, I've loved every job. You know, I look back and, you know, in each chapter, I've learned so much, and I've enjoyed the role models, the colleagues, the coaching that I received.
Good. Okay, now what, if any, what job did you like least? Like even going back to like early, starting out.
This answer, I am going back early. I can say that with 100. Was working for an insurance company, large one here in town, and I was in their accounting department. You know, account receivables. I was an expectant mother the first time, and I thought that I had to, you know, get a real office job. Oh no, I found out quickly, you know, run fast, no.
Okay. All right. So what profession other than yours currently would you really like to do?
I don't know if you would consider this a profession. What I would really love to do, and what I still aspire to, is my dream would be to become like the philanthropist. I would love to have the ability to make a positive impact and give back to certain causes, certain areas of my community, and that's big, audacious. Now, if I was to roll back all the different decades of my life, my other interest was in law, but again, it would be to help those that can't afford and have representation, help those that don't know any differently. So those would be my choices.
Okay. All right. So what's your favorite word or phrase?
Groovy. Just everybody thinks that's really corny. My kids think I'm goofy, but I don't know. There's just something about that word, groovy. I love it.
Okay. And then we all have one of these if we're sitting in a meeting or if it comes up. What's the word or phrase that makes you cringe?
Oh, I don't know about, I don't think I've heard this word very much in a meeting, but the word that bothers me the most is stupid. Or now in a meeting would be, we've done it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm with you. Okay, so what is your favorite thing to do to escape? You already mentioned this a little bit, but.
Music.
Music, okay. I was going to say, what's your least favorite thing to do? Well, we always get roped into things and you're just like, why did I sign up for this?
One thing I least like to do the most actually is laundry. Being roped into, sometimes I would say it would be during for awards during. Yeah, there's just, yeah, there's something about that, that I just feel as if I'm not as contributing in a manner that I would like to. Why is that? I don't know. You've caused me to pause. I have to think about that one.
Nope, you don't have to think about it. Just what comes to mind. All right, and then where will we find you in town if you had your choice to spend a few hours?
Oh, to spend a few hours. I just love walking on the beach. Walking on the beach or walking in the park. Something about having bare feet, touching Mother Earth, to me is very calming.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Terry, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your experience, your journey, the things that you've overcome, giving your advice to those that want to maybe enter the construction field. Some people really don't think about it as a possibility. So thank you for sharing that with us and sharing a little bit about your personal side too. We thank you for all the commitments that you make to this community and the difference that you're making.
Well, Angela, thank you very much for asking me to share part of my story with with you and with our community. It's been fun. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for those that are watching. I believe we've seen the power of possible today. So stay tuned for our next guest. Until then, believe in yourself, believe it's possible, and continue to elevate and inspire those around you. When we do, it elevates us all.